A dramatic new chapter has opened in the escalating global trade saga between the world's two largest economies. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so you never miss the biggest geopolitical developments shaping our world. What unfolded in Washington has sent shockwaves through Beijing, Brussels, and beyond, reshaping the balance of economic leverage at the highest levels of power. China has formally called on the United States to abolish all unilateral tariffs imposed under President Donald Trump after a landmark decision by the Supreme Court of the United States effectively invalidated most of the measures introduced last year. The ruling centers on Trump's reliance on the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act, commonly known as IEEPA, to justify sweeping tariff actions. The court determined that the statute did not grant the executive branch the authority to impose such broad trade restrictions, nullifying a substantial portion of the tariff framework that had targeted numerous U.S. trading partners. Reacting swiftly, China's Ministry of Commerce issued a strongly worded statement urging Washington to dismantle the remaining duties. Beijing reiterated its long-standing position that unilateral tariff escalations undermine global trade norms and damage economic stability. The ministry declared that the measures not only breach international trade principles, but now also conflict with U.S. domestic legal standards in light of the Supreme Court's decision. The background to this confrontation is rooted in a trade standoff that intensified dramatically last year. President Trump introduced a baseline 10% tariff on a wide array of imports, supplementing it with additional surcharges aimed at countries accused of maintaining substantial trade imbalances with the United States. China was among the most heavily affected. At the height of the confrontation, American tariffs on Chinese goods surged as high as 145%. While Beijing retaliated with duties reaching 125% on U.S. exports. The tit-for-tat measures reverberated across global supply chains, affecting manufacturing, agriculture, technology sectors, and financial markets worldwide. By November, however, both governments agreed to a temporary pause in escalation. Under a one-year arrangement, tariff levels were partially reduced in selected sectors, easing some of the immediate pressure. That pause was widely viewed as a tactical de-escalation rather than a comprehensive resolution. Now, the Supreme Court's intervention has altered the strategic terrain. Analysts suggest the decision may enhance China's negotiating leverage ahead of a highly anticipated state visit by President Trump to Beijing, scheduled for late March. During that visit, discussions are expected to include the possibility of a more comprehensive trade accord that could redefine economic engagement between the two powers. President Trump responded to the judicial setback with visible intensity. Within days of the ruling, he signed an executive order introducing a temporary 15% global tariff under alternative statutory authority. The administration has signaled that it is exploring additional legal pathways to reimpose more durable tariff measures. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer indicated that investigations into alleged unfair trade practices by major trading partners are being prepared. Such probes could serve as the foundation for future trade penalties under different sections of U.S. trade law. Greer also emphasized that countries which negotiated agreements during the period of tariff pressure, including the United Kingdom, South Korea, and the European Union, are expected to uphold their commitments despite the judicial reversal. The reaction from international partners has been varied and cautious. The European Commission has demanded full clarification from Washington regarding its next steps, insisting that the United States honor its prior commitments under a 2025 agreement designed to cap tariff levels. In Asia, India reportedly postponed a planned trade delegation to Washington aimed at finalizing an interim trade arrangement, citing uncertainty following both the court's decision and the administration's swift countermeasures. The implications extend beyond bilateral tensions. Global markets are now assessing the durability of US trade policy instruments and the scope of executive authority in shaping economic strategy. The ruling underscores the constitutional boundaries governing trade actions and may influence how future administrations approach emergency economic powers. For Beijing, the moment represents both opportunity and risk. While the court's judgment appears to weaken Washington's unilateral tariff arsenal, the introduction of alternative legal strategies by the US administration signals that economic pressure tools remain very much in play. The coming weeks will likely determine whether this episode leads to renewed confrontation or a structured pathway toward negotiated settlement. For the broader international community, the stakes are substantial. The US-China trade relationship is deeply intertwined with global growth trajectories, supply chain resilience, commodity markets, and technological competition. Any sustained disruption reverberates far beyond the two capitals. As President Trump prepares for his state visit to Beijing, expectations are mounting. Will the two sides transform legal upheaval into diplomatic momentum? Or will competing interpretations of authority and leverage ignite another wave of economic retaliation? What is clear is that the balance of power in global trade has entered a new and unpredictable phase. The courtroom decision in Washington has triggered diplomatic recalibration in Beijing and strategic reassessment across allied capitals. The next move could redefine the trajectory of one of the most consequential economic rivalries of our time. If you found this deep dive insightful, remember to subscribe, like, and share to stay ahead of the world's most critical geopolitical developments.